Welcome to part 2 of Oracle Cards and Self-Care. What I am doing is picking an Oracle card every day for 7 days and choosing a self-care activity based on that card. So this will be a continuation of part 1, which included days 1 and 2. We are starting this part with day 3. And as a quick kind of recap, if you have not seen part 1 of what Oracle cards are, if you have not heard of them, they are similar to tarot cards. But with any tarot deck, you're basically going to get the same set of cards. Oracle cards can be anything. So that is, I think, what you need to know to start with day 3. The deck that I'm using is the Literary Witches Oracle. This is my first Oracle deck. It was gifted to me just a few days ago. So part of doing this video project is not only to practice some self-care, but to start learning the cards. To see what more of the cards look like in the deck, you can check out part 1, and I also explain how I shuffle my cards. But for now, since I've already done that, I'm just going to get started. Wow, okay. So today's card, as you can see next to me, was the Noose card. And as you could tell from my face at first, I was like, well, good gracious. But, so the first word that came to mind looking at this card was restriction. And then when I looked at the guidebook, the key word that stood out to me the most was self-sabotage. So in kind of putting this together in my well, it was tarot journal, now I guess card journal, so quickly what I do is I'll write down my first impression, then I will write down the guide's interpretation, then I will write down sort of how I mix those together, and then in this instance I'm writing down my self-care activity. So, looking at like what came up for me in thinking about this card, I then asked myself some questions, and like what is something that, like something good that I've sort of talked myself out of, or what is something that like I've put so much like effort into not doing that it would be easier just to do it. And so I'm thinking, and then I was like, God damn it, my self-care activity today is to clean the kitchen. I know it'll be good. I have been working the past like week and a half to like clean my entire apartment. And I knew that the kitchen was going to be the last thing because so like, and I have like, I mean, and well, the point is I have to just do it. I will feel so much better when it's done, and I know I will. And, holding yourself accountable is self-care. Holding yourself accountable is self-care. So here we go. These self-care activities are getting harder. So, alright, here we go. Okay, so this is what we're starting with, which is what it is, folks. It is what it is. I did it. I cleaned the entire kitchen. Oh my God. The table, the counters, the sink, the stove, and not just cleared. Washed. And honestly, it didn't take as long as I may have built up in my head. I did it. I did it, and I did try to be mindful as I was doing it, that this is a self-care activity. Try and be mindful. Remember what you're doing this for, other than just to have a nice kitchen. And so I mean, I can't say I did that the entire time, but I mean, I feel like I never want to cook anything ever again because I don't want to mess anything up, but it's nice to sit and look at the kitchen now, and that was not the case before. So, okay, Samantha, this is a moment of self-care. This was an action of self-care. I made a plan. I stuck to it. I did it. Good job. Good morning. It is now day 4 of my self-care project. And so I want to mention something else that I did last night. Even after cleaning the kitchen, I still did more that day. So last night I attended a vigil in honor of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And my video of that will already be posted, so I will link it in the description if you have not seen it yet. But it was a very nice event. But today we are ready to pick a new card. I am very curious what my new self-care activity for today will be, so let's get started. Today's card was the Eye. And what came to me as I was reflecting on this card was keeping an eye on things. And so today's self-care activity is something that I have put off for too long. So I am going to call and make a doctor's appointment with a gynecologist. I'm not sure if it can be the one I saw before since I have different insurance now, but I will find a doctor who accepts my current insurance and I will make an appointment. So this is not something I can really film myself doing, but I will check in once I have the appointment set. You guys, that went better than expected. So the doctor I usually have gone to is accepting patients with my current insurance, and I got an appointment 1 week from today, so I don't even have to wait a long time. I did it. It's been too long, and to clarify, there's nothing wrong. I just haven't, I've gone longer than is recommended since my last visit. So, self-care. Self-care, as I am, not finding, but showing or just experiencing this week, self-care, it looks like a lot of different things. And today it looked like making a doctor's appointment. So I'm proud of myself. So, continue tomorrow. Because I don't know, there's nothing else to film for this one, so continue tomorrow. Good morning. This is day 5 of my Oracle Cards and Self-Care project. It is also the first day of fall, so my Mabon vlog will be linked in the description. You can watch that. And since I'm planning on doing more than usual today, we are getting started bright and early, not waiting for my hair to dry before we get started. So here we go. What will be the self-care activity for today? Let's pick a card. Alright, so this was a tough one. This one took a while. You can tell that my hair is basically dry now, so it took a while. But I finally arrived at a self-care activity. And like the activity itself is going to be probably the easiest one yet, but getting there was a slog. So let me explain. So the oracle card that I pulled was the Creature's Paw. And so in reflecting on this card, looking at the keywords in the guidebook, what I got from this was, what is something that I am like gripping onto? Like you could really hold tightly with a claw that I maybe don't need to be holding as tightly. But then also that, similar to a hand, but a claw, of the thought that like, what is just a different perspective on something? What is a different way that I could be looking at like any certain situation where it doesn't change the picture, it just gives you a new way of seeing it or understanding it. So I'm thinking and thinking and thinking about like, well, okay, how does that translate into an activity? But then I get the bright idea, which was a good idea, so I'll give myself credit for that, to pull a tarot card to sort of clarify, to sort of like add some additional insight to this. And people do combine like tarot cards and oracle cards in readings. Usually I'd say probably, and I'm not any sort of authority on this, but usually people will do like tarot spreads and then add an oracle card to clarify this. So this is it's one card of each. So the point is I'm making this story longer than it needs to be. So in the spirit of seeing a picture in a new way, I decided to draw a tarot card to try and give me some more ideas. So the tarot card that I drew was the King of Cups. And this card is really all about balance, especially between the masculine and feminine. It's about combining strengths, like emotional and intellectual maturity with like a depth of feeling and devotion. It's sort of like the high up of what you could have with just combining strengths and balance. So I'm like, okay, how does this translate to a self-care activity? Like it was very like up high, like theoretical, conceptual, and I was like, I need something that I can do at home for free. So it took a while of kind of thinking, reviewing my notes, making more notes to sort of then figure out where to take this. So I'm looking around my apartment because I think I have a pretty feminine apartment. And so I was like, okay, I need to find something masculine and I'll do that. And I was like, I don't know what I'm looking for. But then I basically turned my head and saw my comic books. Now, comic books are traditionally thought of as like a masculine thing or a thing for boys or men, whatever. But I mean, and they're not. Like, to be clear, like I have like 2 entire shelves. They're not, nothing is one or the other. But I was like, oh, okay. So then I was like, well, then I'll read like a comic book with a male main character. The thing is, I don't have many of those. Most of the comic books that I have female main characters. But then I realized that I had recently checked out from the library Daredevil comic book. So, masculine character, male main character, and connecting to the Creature's Paw. So in the spirit of, kind of that you are not the only one with useful tools, that, there are other people, other perspectives. Like he's blind. So having to not rely on that, there are other senses then that he has to. I may be stretching this a little bit, but it'll be fun to read a comic book. So that is what I'm doing today. I'm going to read Daredevil. This is what I will be reading today. I believe it is the most recent series of Daredevil. So it is volume 1, written by Chip Zdarsky. It's issues 1 through 5. And I'll show you some of the art inside. So pretty masculine, if you ask me. And if that's what we're going for today, then I think this is it. So I'm reading Daredevil, and I'm a little more than halfway through, and I realized so with my Oracle and Tarot cards this morning, how it was all about balance, especially with the Tarot card, and today's the autumn equinox, equal light and day, balance. Sometimes things happen like that. Sometimes.